So, yeah, I appreciated the way Steve started the meeting last week, so I think we'll go ahead and do that again. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance and prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, thank you for this opportunity to meet as a body. We thank you, Lord, for the place you planted us and the life you've allowed us to live here in Adams County and in the United States. And we just hope, Lord, that the things that we do in this meeting this morning can reflect favorably on you and be in accordance with your wishes. Ask all these things, Lord, in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
All right. Okay, we're going to open this morning with a public hearing, and that public hearing is to hear public comment on the sale of the property at on 200 West surrounding Golden Meadows. Just a couple questions. I've been getting calls from several people, and one question is, why did we decide to sell the property in the first place? So last November, when land values were high and interest rates were starting to come up, and we were looking at some major capital projects coming up that we were anticipating that we were statutorily responsible for through the county government. The commissioners at that time decided that would be a good opportunity to liquidate that farm, put those assets into a protected fund, and direct that towards upcoming capital projects. So what we did, we went ahead and had assessments done, or appraisals done, I'm sorry, 2 appraisals, and we had survey work done to take a look at that land. And then we approached council, and through several discussions with council, jointly between commissioners and council, we agreed to go ahead and offer that land for sale at public auction. So also statutorily that, we were looking for a certain price on that land. And so I guess another thing I'm going to say is that money from the proceeds from the sale of the farm is in a protected fund that has been created, and that will only be used towards major capital expenditures. So, it's directed in a fairly specific way with a specific intent. So as far as the mechanics of the sale, the appraisals, the amount we were looking for, and where we're at right now, I guess I'd ask Mark to kind of bring us up to date on that as far as what we're going to talk about today.
So today we have public hearing scheduled on the east tract, which was tract number 4, which was surveyed. That tract is 62.46 acres, and that's the tract of real estate that's located on the east side of 200 that wraps around Golden Meadows. And public auction was held on April 13th, April 13th. And that was down at the Monroe Fairgrounds. And at that auction, the high bid on that tract 4 was $750,000, which was a price of $12,008 per acre for tract 4. So the commissioners took that under advisement. It's less than the average appraisal for that tract, which was $14,522.50 per acre. Then they took that under advisement, scheduled this for public hearing. In order for the commissioners to consider selling that for less than what the average appraised value was, then they'd have to have a public hearing to confirm the sale for anything below market value. But that's up to them. They may say, no, we're not confirming the sale, and that's it. Or they possibly could confirm the sale, and on the basis that those appraisals were obtained that one appraisal was October 24th, and the other one was right about that time, October, November. So the appraisals had a little bit of age on them. Obviously, interest rates changed, and there's been some changes in the market. And then there's always a question of, on appraisals, it was apparent from the auction that there was a significant difference in value that everybody placed upon the west parcels versus the east parcels. And there's land conditions, I think, that indicate why that was the case. There's a large public ditch that runs through tract 4, and access to the land to the back has to be by way of a concrete culvert that's in there. It's got less road frontage, and the soil types are not as good as the tracts on the west. But anyway, that's what's up for discussion today. That's why it was advertised in the newspaper for public hearing this morning. And so any members of the public that have any comments or desire to voice opinions one way or another on whether or not the commissioners should confirm the sale of that ground, that's the purpose of this public hearing. So any questions about process? I guess we'll just open it up. We've convened the public hearing. We'll take comments from individuals concerning whether or not, your opinion concerning whether or not the county should confirm that sale or not. And then it is not scheduled for a decision today. If they'll have to put it on the agenda for a subsequent meeting to consider whether or not to approve or confirm the sale or not confirm the sale. So with that, I guess I'd open it up. Gentlemen, you can open it up for comments and see what everybody's got to say. And if you do, just please state your name and then state your comments and some questions and answers.
I guess I've got several phone calls from quite a few people, and so I would certainly welcome comments today. That's why we're here, and that's why we're having the public meeting. So, but like Mark said, this is to specifically address the ground east of 200, the 62 acres that were offered for auction. So please, that we're kind of anxious to hear everybody's thoughts. So.
Okay, Doug Bauman, former commissioner. It's been a while since I've sat on the side of the bench. And so I do appreciate appreciate the work that the commissioners do. I know what it is. It's not easy. And there's a lot of decisions that are going to be questionable. And this is one. Stand to reason, you got several calls probably. Some of them are due to me. I had several calls of why, and I said, I don't have anything in it. You're going to have to contact the chairman of the commissioner, Stan Stoppenhagen. So maybe some of those calls was there. I guess I'm here to ask the commissioners to maybe consider an alternative to what we have on this particular parcel of ground. Number one, if you've been researching land sales in Indiana the last few years, it's been anywhere from 10% to 20% increased value every year. Due to the fact interest rates are high, due to the fact that the crop prices have dropped off some, it may soften a bit. That 12 to 20% may soften a bit, but if you read Halderman or Sullivan or any of the large people that's in this thing, the prediction is, 9%, 12%, perhaps more. Just doing a little math, if that parcel sells as is, it's about $750,000. If Ed takes that money and invests it, he might get 6% in today's world. I don't know. Okay, I don't know. 6% would probably be top. If you take your cash rent off and land increases, it would only take 4% increase to offset what 6% would bring you per year on $750,000. Okay, in all likelihood, if you hang on to that ground a while, it's going to be, my prediction is, and large realtors are going to tell you 9% plus, even though things are softening up a bit. So financially, think about that. There are a couple other things. Stan, you mentioned you got some capital projects coming up.
Right.
That's not unique from 120 years plus that the commissioners that sat in your seats. There were always capital projects, and there will be capital projects after you pay these. So, from a historical point of view, if I'm not mistaken, I think Dennis, was that ground originally purchased for 75 cents an acre? Something like that. Something like that. Back way when every county got county farm bill. Now, there are not many left. The other point I'd like to make is anyone that's been in the land business over the years, I've walked away from a few sales myself and I said, what were you thinking? And I look back and it's all been good. And I've sold a few parcels here and there. And I look back and I wish I had them back. And I can almost assure you, if you let this go, and I have nothing against the person that bid this off, nothing. He's about to get a bargain if you decide to sell it. But I can almost assure you, if you look back 5 years from now and you sell it now, you look back 5 years, I can almost assure you, you're going to say, I wish we had it back. And, at this point in time, I guess I'll turn the floor over to anyone else who'd like to speak.
Well, go ahead. I'll just jump in here, Stan. Fred Kunkel, landowner, farmer. No, I agree with everything that Doug said. And, I followed what you did just from afar. I read in the paper what was going on. And I questioned this too, why at this point in time, and that's why I called you, Stan.
Sure.
What were the uses for these funds? And I'll agree with him too. There have been capital projects that you guys have come against over the years. And you've always looked for a financing way or there's a way to pay for them. And, I kind of question this, why do we have to sell this ground now for capital projects in the future? I guess every capital project has to kind of stand on its own. And I guess in the beginning, I really didn't agree with this, why we had to sell it now. But, I went through it. The one parcels did sell, and I agree that was probably a pretty decent price compared to your appraisals. But yes, when you get to this parcel that did not sell, this is a pretty good discount from the appraised value. And we've all been alive long enough. I've seen what land values have done in my lifetime. Probably older people have seen even more. And I do agree that the Holderman, the Schraders, the people that deal in this all the time, if you read and understand what they're saying, that no, the long-term trends are there. And so, how far down the future are these capital projects going to be? I think too, this ground, even if you want to sell it at that point in time, the numbers that Doug used, you can use any number, but I think it's going to be by far better in all of our interests if we kept that ground and then looked at it at that point in time. So
If we start a capital project 5 years from now and land prices have increased, will we be sitting here saying the same thing? Don't sell it.
well,
I'll respond to that. Okay, I would say, let's take a look at what you got, Stan.
Okay.
Okay, you're dealing with productive farm ground. If you go south of Borum Run, we bought the Miller Farm to build the jail. We paid $1.2 million for that cash. County did. Okay, that was 110 acres, Mark, I think, if I'm not right. Okay, we built a nice jail. I know what the plan is down the road. If I was sitting in your seat, I would have the same plan. We got Superior Court, you got Circuit Court, you got probation, you got community corrections, you're going to have to take a look, move perhaps a project to move that out. Okay, the sell of the farm ground won't even pay for your soft cost on that project. I can assure you, because that project is going to be pretty darn expensive when you get it done. And I said south of Borum Run, the county owns, I don't know what it is for sure, I'd have to look it back up, perhaps 60 acres, of which 80% of that 60 acres is recreational ground.
Mm-hmm.
If that would have been the parcel you were selling, I can almost assure you, you'd have got $12,000 for recreational ground. And we're talking about productive farm ground. You got Golden Meadows sitting there. Who knows what the future for Golden Meadows is? You've got Solid waste sitting right next to it. Who knows, right now, solid waste, separate taxing unit, doing well. You know, who knows what the future holds for solid waste? My opinion is, we got an ace in our pocket, let's not get rid of it.
Okay.
At this point in time.
Very good. Yeah, points well taken, that's for sure. And like I said, we've had multiple discussions, amongst the commissioners and also with council. We've had multiple discussions with council, and so, those are all very good points. And it's the only thing in the midst of all those discussions that we didn't have was a crystal ball. So,
You'll never have that chance.
I would say that's.
That would be nice.
yeah. So, but, so yeah, comments very much appreciated. Anybody else that'd like to, like Mark said, we're not gonna make a decision today. We'll put it on the agenda and make a decision next Tuesday. So,
The only thing I'll add is, I had several calls and just, primarily Fred Kunkel type, farmers, people that know land, that own land, that know what it's going to do. I had several people contact me and said, I don't really have the answer, folks. I don't have the answer. I have not had one person come up and say, I think they made a good decision to sell this stuff. I know west of the road, it's going. Okay, you got a decent price for that. On the other side of the road, let me just add this. If anyone, if I were going to sell any of my ground and the auction or the private bid price was $2,000 plus less than my appraisal, I'd give you my answer when I quit laughing.
yeah. Okay.
So, enough said from my point, Fred.
Yeah, no, I very much appreciated points very well taken from two very experienced people. So that's exactly what we're looking for today is input. And, so just, very productive to hear from you gentlemen. Steve, do you have comments? Do you have, so.
I really don't. I think it's, I think it's, again, and I'm the junior commissioner here. This is not, I've sat in this seat now for a few months. But I've also managed investments for many years. And I think the decision in my head was, are we holding this as an investment or are we holding this for future use? If we're holding this for future use, I can make sense out of that. As an investment, the state of Indiana does not list that as an authorized investment for a taxing authority for us. So I think in my head, and Doug, I think your point is well taken. We've got the county home sitting there. We don't know what the future of that is. We've got solid waste sitting there. We don't know what the future of that is. So kind of with that in mind, I think, do we hold this ground for potential future use of some kind? If we held it as an investment, to me, that's a different decision. And you as an individual, Fred, as a farmer, as an individual, your investment parameters are totally different than what we have as a county. Unfortunately, when Ed gives us his treasurer's report and he lists all the investments that the county has and all the assets that the county has, that doesn't even show up because it's not an authorized investment for us to hold. So it's kind of off the books, so to speak. I don't disagree with you in thinking that the upside potential of holding that is high. I'm just not sure that it's authorized for us to hold it as an investment. And I know we've had it for many years without really a vision for use versus a vision for holding it as an investment. I think we would all agree if the county went out and bought ground today as an investment, you would think, that's crazy. You can't buy ground as an investment. You have to invest in the things that the state says you can invest in and should invest in. So that's kind of my thinking along that line. I, as an individual, may want to hold it. We as a county, I'm not sure we should be holding that as investment. But if we hold it as a hedge against not knowing what's going to happen with solid waste and the county farm, I can kind of make sense out of that. So that's where I'm personally at, and I guess we'll find out for sure where that vote is next week. But thanks for all your input. I've heard from a few of the landowners, and obviously we work for you guys. So trying to wrestle all that for a guy that's sat in this seat for a few months is a lot.
If I can just make one more comment.
Sure.
I understand where you're coming from, Steve, though, too, but I guess going back to like Stan, if you appraised a house for $500,000 and then somebody's only gonna give you 300,000,
Yeah.
would you sell?
Yeah,
So
and I think that's a great point, and I agree with you 100%.
No, so I understand where you're coming from, Steve, as far as the state of Indiana, right, as far as a recognized investment. I understand where you're coming from. But I guess at this point in time, when you had an appraisal and then this is all we're being offered, I guess I'm looking at it as just this decision.
Yeah.
So.
Understood.
Yeah,
And
good point.
point well taken, Steve. Your mind works a bit different than ours. But the thing of it is, it's not, okay, throw the investment out. But if it escalates in value, like it's in all likelihood will, and you decide to capitalize on that, it's a taxpayer saving of money. The county? No, the county don't save money, taxpayers save money. And if it would bring $200,000 more 5 years from now, then now it's a taxpayer savings. And we do represent taxpayers.
Yeah, that's true.
So I appreciate,
Yeah.
I appreciate your job.
So-
Your thinking comes from your heart and what's best for Adams County. I certainly appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, I certainly appreciate the input. Steve, did you have?
Dennis has a comment.
Dennis?
Dennis Boyer. I have a different perspective on this whole process. I have the advantage of the historical paper, a land grant transfer with a stamp on it, signed by Mark Van Buren. That's how far back this property was transferred to my wife's family. And it was 25 cents. There was a stamp on there, 25 cents. I asked my son-in-law, what is that? He said, that's how much the property sold for. If you're looking at investment by way of return, I don't know, and we could probably research and find out what the actual cost per acre was. But at $250 an acre at 25 cents original cost, how can you compare that with 5 or 6 or 7% in the market today? And this was never about money. We have bonding capacity that we could have covered any cost of it, jail center, judicial center, however you want to call it. We have $29 million in the bank. So it wasn't about money at all. And you never really appreciated the people that kept that facility going. Leo and Betty Fiesel, and Charlie Morgan and his wife. There's a historical perspective here that you're totally lost by way of dollar value. I think that is wrong to look at it from just an economic standpoint. It was an income producing, agricultural producing farm. And even when you missed the opportunity to raise the rental rate, which you could have a couple of years ago, you kept it at what, $200, $250? I don't remember what. The going rate today is $300 an acre. So you missed the opportunity on numerous points to just appreciate what you have and get rid of it for something that you don't need. You don't need the money. And that's my point of view. I don't think we should have sold any of the land at all. Personal standpoint. I think it would be unwise to sell it at this time for various reasons that Steve's point and Doug's valuation.
All right, thank you, Dennis. So, that was one thing, as far as your perspective, you had the benefit of sitting in with our discussions with commissioners and council, and so, you know, that's kind of an interesting perspective too, of having the benefit of those discussions that you've had too, so, yeah. So I appreciate your comments. So, all right. So I guess at this time, anybody else that would like to speak to the issue, you're certainly welcome to. If not, we're going to close the public hearing at this time. So, but.
Any other comments? Need a motion to.
Thank you,
close
Doug.
the
Thank you,
public
Fred.
hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, public hearing is closed. All right, let's go ahead and get started with our regular weekly meeting of the commissioners. Have you gentlemen have the opportunity to look at the minutes from April 25th?
Yes, I did.
I have. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. All right, Tony, what do you have for us?
Okay, I passed out, you gentlemen, prior to the meeting, a couple of reports. The first is the animal control report submitted by Chad Springer, which shows how many animals were picked up, where they were picked up, and the mileage. If the papers need these, I can make copies of them.
I'll make a motion, we put this in the record.
Second.
All right, motion carries.
And then I also handed to you all the animal shelter report submitted by Cindy Heiser. And it shows that there are currently 22 dogs and cats being sheltered. It kind of gives you a breakdown of animals that were claimed and adoption dates and so forth on some of them, but 22 are currently being sheltered.
I think that looks like it dropped a little bit, didn't it?
I think it was, what, the 27 last time or something?
Yeah.
So yeah, a little.
All right, any
Make a motion,
questions?
we put this in the record.
Second.
All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Then I have the Allied weekly health insurance claims. Those are in the amount of $22,397.62. And it is all medical. No stop loss or anything. It's just $22,397.62. And I do need your signature on that after they approve it.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, motion carries.
Okay, I have one other thing, and this kind of goes back to last week. If you all remember,
Did you want to see that?
Barb Lerman and Bob came in front of us and you approved up to $2,000 to repair the siren, and you had set out the commissioner's budget. Since that time, Bree and I have spoken to Barb Lerman. We looked at her budget, and where this should come out of is the LEPC budget, 1152.42601. There's plenty in there to cover it, and that's typically where this would have come from. So it would amend the motion from last week and approve it to come out of this particular fund instead.
I make a motion that we admit the motion from last week approved to come out of that fund.
Second.
Righty.
Okay, motion
you.
carries. Thanks for your research and looking into that.
Well, that was, I'm going to give Bree all the credit on that. Unless you just want to give me some, just fill it
No.
right for me or something.
We'll give it to Bree, that's fine.
Okay, doggone it.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched on the computer while she looked at it. It's like-
All right. Oh,
That is all that I have today.
okay, thank you, Tony. Paul, are you our engineer today?
Whatever you want to call me today. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Things going on this morning. Start off with a couple of permits that we have. First one, I guess they're both from Indiana Michigan Power. St. Mary's, Washington Township for the first one, I-50 North Pickle Road, 300 East, 375, and 375 to 400. Just replacing poles. They're just taking them out and sticking them right back to the same spot. They're just replacing some old poles. I don't know if you want to do these both together since they're both for AEP.
Yeah, I think that'd be all right.
Okay. The other one is on 250 West between 750 North and 900 North. Same thing. They're pulling out a pole and they're sticking in a new one. Not a big deal. Most of them are just going around the county and just replacing some of these old damaged poles.
So move.
Second.
Okay,
Signature needed on those.
So that was St. Mary's in Washington.
St. Mary's and
Washington.
Washington. Yes. Okay. So we'll just go down through our list here. June 1st, as of June 1st, the pricing of our driveway access permits will go up just due to the cost of the aggregate going up and materials. We'll get you more definite pricing on that, just kind of a heads up that it is coming. We'll get a new form up and present that to you. That's just informational. Also, some information for you is starting our 10-hour days will be May 15th, which is in a couple Mondays from yesterday, which is also the last day of buggy plate sales. So that'll give buggy plates, give our communities a couple more hours that day to get stuff finalized before the deadline. So
good. So those are coming right along. You
they're
got,
coming right along.
seemed
I
like it
think
was
last
slow at
Friday, they
first.
sold over 100 on Friday, so.
Okay,
And last but not least, last week we took under advisement the pickup truck purchase bids. I went through them, made some phone calls and to clarify some of the confusion that we had. So I just had Becky make these up, so it was maybe. So by going through the bids and talking to the two dealerships that offered a bid, Heidi Chrysler, the bid that they give us was, the number they give us was from last year. Then they are unable to order a truck at all. They don't know when that will open up. And Heidi GM give us a price that was actually a good bid of $56,761. And this will be less the government discount. That is yet to be determined by GM here in the next, supposed to be in the next 2 months, but you don't know. But it'll be
I
that.
wonder if that's a truck they actually have sitting there?
No.
Oh,
He said, but they've been doing pretty good as far as their orders on 3/4 tons. They've been coming in just a matter of a month or two. So it's a pretty good turnaround. So my advice is that we go ahead and move forward with ordering the GM pickup from Heidi GM.
okay, that would make sense to me.
I'd make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, very good.
That's all I have, short and sweet.
Hey, Paul, while you're there, what
Yeah.
date did you say 10-hour day start?
The 15th.
15th. Mark, is that something that they would need official approval? Do they get official approval from the commissioners to begin that and then end it, or is that just,
I think it says
Okay,
in the
just to
manual
do.
that It's up to the department to get what it's read through the new manual.
I think in the past, they've approved the 4-day. week
okay,
in the
I just didn't
past.
know if
They
it
just
needed an
need to
official.
Just notify, I mean, it doesn't hurt to put it in the record that he presented it and have the commissioners approve that to begin. What is it? When it?
May 15th.
May
I
15th.
think I would feel better
It's a,
about
that'd
that
be,
myself.
well, at least it's in the record, so it makes sense to have it in the record. So I'd say go ahead and have it approved in the record.
Make the motion.
Second.
All right, motion carries. Question on, when we took the big bids on those 3 big bridge deck overlays, and those are now on hold, do we need to do anything different with that? Because we had approved those bids through USI, but yet federal funding didn't come through, so.
As Brad I talked to Brad a little bit last Thursday. Did they get back a hold of him yet?
Not that I'm aware of. He's in Indianapolis on a conference yesterday and today, so I haven't been able to visit with him much since.
So before we move ahead with that, that'll come back in
Yeah.
front of us.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Good.
Anything else, gentlemen?
Did you want to do anything with this?
You want this now?
Oh,
So
it's up to
I
you.
went with Brad down to the Merit Award Engineering, and Adams County was awarded a award on the Burn Geneva Trail Historical. So if anybody wants to see this, take a picture of it, put it in the paper, whatever.
So,
When was that presented? Down at the, is
Thursday,
that down at the annual conference?
yes, at the end of the conference.
Yeah, definitely want to make that a matter of public records.
yeah, I think that was pretty special to be recognized at the state level for,
Right.
for that South Adams Trail. So,
Speak on that after.
Okay.
yeah, very good.
Very
Thank
good.
you, Paul.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Sorry, I didn't know you wanted me to do that now.
Yeah, well, I didn't know when we wanted to do it, so that, yeah. All right. Looks like Rick's not in here. Ed, did you have anything for us?
We're busy, as you can imagine, and I just want to make sure I was down here in case there's any questions on the Golden Meadows thing. I'm gonna head back upstairs.
Okay,
No other report. Thank you.
all right, yep. All right, Mr. Ramsey, would you like to come up? Well, we were all in here at the Drainage Board meeting waiting for donuts while you and Steve were probably out having donuts.
And he didn't even bring us a donut.
We were coughing it up, weren't we?
Coffee, but
No donuts involved.
Coffee, but no donuts. huh?
We thought he was sure to prove that's the sale, didn't we?
There you go.
Yes, you guys, so I know how to word it.
And this is our annual funding request for financial update for Bi-County Services. And you've got a question kind of presentation sheet there. It's 50% plus all the financial documents for through February of this year. Our fiscal year starts July 1st.
What percentage of your residents are your employees are working?
Actually, we've closed both of our shelter workshops
Gotcha.
last year, so zero. But many of those that we did employ there, we've helped them find jobs in the community,
Good.
so.
Okay. Oh, there we go. I didn't read down far enough.
So 2 years ago, we had asked for a funding increase, and, which was approved, and we were at $41,280. Again, that was 2 years ago. We're asking for another increase up to $45,408, and the reasons for that are explained below. And we're going to make this same request to Mills County also, like we always do. So, probably one of our biggest challenges is, like everybody, is staffing. It's really a major challenge for us to find qualified staffing, and staffing drives our revenue. So that's certainly a tough one for us, and I think for everybody. Increased payroll expenses due to the fact that you've got to pay more in order to keep your help. We haven't actually increased our hourly rate, but what we've done is it's kind of a creative bonus program that there are 6 bonuses that we are actually paying to our employees throughout 2023. And some of that money comes from the state grant, and then others is from our reserves. So that's how we're trying to address that. Certainly, we've had higher expenses due to increased inflation. When I was doing some studies on that, in 21, it was 7.5% increase, 22, 6.5, and then 2023, we're on a 5% run right now. So compounded, that's a little bit over 18% increase. So that's substantial. Our day services programs have been reduced, and that certainly decreased our revenue. We have 4 open residential beds, which that decreases our revenue also. But right now, we're working on filling 2 of those, so that may be some good news here shortly. As you can see down below, right now, we're at a $764,000 negative figure financially. Some of that will be a positive impact because of the fact that we did close our workshops. That should gain us about $125,000 in expenses that we'll avoid. And then also, the Indiana legislature, working with the federal government, is looking at giving all the providers in Indiana an increase. That discussion has been going on for some time as far as the amount and the timing of that. It looks like it may be January 1st of 2024 before we see anything from that, but they are having discussions to try to bring that forward if they can, and it's all related to Indiana's budget so right now as far as what they can actually do. So that should help us also. And as always, our depreciation and stuff is figured in there too, which is really substantial for us too. But combined all the things that we talked about here, that's kind of where we're at right now. So, and right now we're providing services for about 130 folks between Adams and Wells County. That's down from typically 150 to 155 that we normally support, but some of that is some of the folks that we provided services for have passed away, so that's lowered that. And then also, due to the fact of staffing and that too, we haven't actually brought other people, new people in because we didn't have the staff to actually provide those services.
So those 55 are from Adams County, you got, looks like, so.
Yeah, 55 in Adams County.
Right.
And 74 in Wells County. And some of that change there too is we actually closed our group home in Bern because of the fact that the folks living there had aged out and it had a steep stairway and they just really couldn't manage it very well anymore. So we actually have sold that home and we've actually bought another home that we were able to find in Bluffton. And it's more conducive to what they need. So.
More easy access.
Yes.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, questions, gentlemen?
I had an opportunity to spend some time with Tim this morning and just shared a cup of coffee and asked him to help me understand a little bit more of where their services are provided and what they do. And I think it's a great example of what can happen when government kind of gets out of the road and lets the creative juices of an entrepreneur and entrepreneurial spirit help us to provide the services that we need to provide to our residents. So, it's obviously it's a very large organization that services over 100 residents that have needs that have to have help in some form or another. I think they're doing a great job of fulfilling that need, and certainly makes sense to me that as their costs go up, that our ability to help them needs to keep pace with that. So I certainly support what Tim and Bi-County is doing, and would support an increase in our funding for them.
Is that a motion?
It is.
I'll second that.
Okay, very good. Motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yep. Thanks for your work. Thanks for coming in.
See you next week in council.
Yes.
Thanks for,
Yeah.
thanks for working together with Michelle once in a while too, and I think that's,
What was that?
we're for working together with Michelle at Council on
yeah.
Aging and just kind of
That's great
Boun-
organization and.
bouncing
yeah,
things
she's really
back.
moving it along
It's a
nicely,
big
so
part.
Yeah.
that's good news, and public transportation is gonna be great for Adams County.
Yeah.
Really is,
Yeah.
so, thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm. I do have Wes Kunzman on here from the Ministerial Association, but I see Pastor York. Are you together with him or are you?
Yes, representing him.
Okay. So, and I don't know if that's something you'd like to speak to, or you want to wait until Wes comes in, or what would?
Wes is not gonna be here.
He's not gonna be here. Okay. So we gotta listen to you?
Yes.
No,
If you'd like to come up. Well,
3 weeks ago, one of the younger pastors was supposed to come in and get approval to use the area on the on the west side of the courthouse for our National Day of Prayer.
okay.
So they picked somebody that was younger,
Oh.
so that would remember to do it. So I'm here asking for permission to use that for our National Day of Prayer, which will be next Thursday.
Okay, so the date and time on that,
It's noon to 1.
okay,
Be
and
12 noon to
the
1.
date on Thursday is the 11th, is that correct?
I'm sorry?
The 11th, is that correct?
That's next Thursday, yes. I think it is the 11th.
All
yes.
right, so, and then, do you use any, facilities as far as
We
electric?
just need a place to plug in the speaker
Right,
and
okay.
the microphone speakers.
All
We'll
right,
have all the stuff we need, but just have a place to plug it in.
okay. All right, well, I was, able to attend last year and it's a very special time for all of us. So,
It is.
yeah, it's just a very special event, so I appreciate you doing that. So, yep, have a motion.
Second.
All right, motion carries. Thank you very much.
So that's.
Thank you.
And that is, next Thursday is the 11th, so just in the record, it shows the commissioners approved the use of the courthouse lawn and west side of the courthouse for National Day of Prayer for a period of 1 hour from 12 to 1.
Are you doing it by the Peace Monument again?
I'm sorry?
By the Peace Monument?
Yes.
Yeah,
Right there where we've always done it.
yeah, okay. Very good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Mhm.
Thanks for coming.
All right. Colton, would you like to come up?
Sure.
All right.
I sent this out ahead of time, but I printed some copies just in case.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yep. So I'm really here today. I guess first and foremost, thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to you today. I'm really here on behalf of two different organizations, one of which is the Adams County EDC, of which I'm executive director. And the other is what we're calling Imagine Early. This is a new organization that we've created between Adams and Wells County. It's a joint effort to really be the leader and the organization that is tackling early learning and childcare in our two communities. The EDC we've been working on early learning really since midway through COVID, as we identified this could be a big issue. And it was before, but really COVID exacerbated that. Coming out of that, we knew it would be a big issue for parents to find childcare to be able to get back into the workforce. And so we began to figure out, what are we going to do? We created a coalition in Adams County. And I began working with a group of people in Northeast Indiana at the regional level who were also creating a coalition to look at it regionally. So between those two coalitions, got a lot of feedback and advice at the regional level. Our coalition was kind of moving along, trying to figure out what are we going to do with the issue. Began to have conversations with
Wells County. They were in the same position we were, trying to create a coalition. We said, why don't we join forces, spread our resources a little bit further? And so that's what we have done. From the EDC's perspective, coming at it from a workforce issue, that's really how we see it. You know, there's multiple ways you could look at early learning childcare. Our perspective is workforce. How do we get more people into the workforce who potentially aren't? And what are the barriers that are keeping them out? Childcare being one of them. We see it as workforce. And so that's how we've kind of navigated through it. Just some facts about that. In the past year, 6 months really, we put out a survey to our employers to understand how is their productivity being impacted? How are their employers dealing with childcare issues, and how is it affecting them when they're at work? We had over 120 respondents to that survey from 9 different companies here locally, and we really saw that the vast majority of people who responded, over 70% said that, you know, in the past 6 months, 1 to 3 times a week, they're taking a call from a child care issue that's pulling them away from their work, pulling them away from their line. And so we know that child care is an issue, not only getting people into the workforce, but the people who are at work, it's an issue for them, the reliability, the affordability, the quality. It's something that they're thinking about on a regular basis. And so with that, in creating this coalition, we wanted to create an entity that this could be their primary focus on a daily basis. The EDC has been trying to tackle this, and we've been doing what I would say is a good job, but we can't put our full time effort to this one issue when we've got housing and we've got other, you know, barriers to employment and workforce issues and talent attraction. There's a lot of things that we do, so we can't put a full core effort into this childcare issue. And so we want to create a new entity, and that's what we've done with Imagine Early. This entity has been created. There's a structure in place with leadership from both communities that are going to oversee this. And our goal, as you can see at the bottom of the sheet I provided you, we began in the summer of 22, kind of bringing those 2 coalitions together. Right now, spring 23 is establishing funding sources, fiscal sponsor, and begin a launch for Imagine Early. And then summer of 23, really by July was the goal. We'd like to hire a full-time director of this organization to tackle the issues. So we're kind of in that fundraising phase. The fiscal sponsor we have identified, it will be the Adams Wells Manufacturing Alliance. It's already a nonprofit entity that works in both counties, and we have a connection. They're going to be the fiscal agent, so they're going to cut the checks and do all of those type of things. This employee, it'll be its own entity. It'll just fall under their not-for-profit status until we're able to create our own. And so we're in that fundraising stage. Wells County Commissioners are receiving the same speech from my counterpart over there that you're receiving this morning. We're also working with the community foundations, and we do have an organization that we've talked to that is willing to kind of fill the gap to get us across the finish line and get us to the point where we can hire that full-time employee once we fundraise from our local entities. The document I've given you does share some just data points of childcare. For instance, between the 2 counties, there are just over 3,000 children aged 0 to 5 who could utilize care. But between the 2 counties, we only have 1,277 licensed capacity. That doesn't mean that there aren't other providers who aren't licensed. That's just the licensed care as licensed by the state. 6 of those are high-quality programs with a capacity of 405. So only 405 are considered high-quality seats within our county. The average weekly cost of child care in Adams County is $140.57. That's for 1 child. You can imagine if you've got 2 children under the age of 5 that you're trying to provide care for, you're pushing nearly $300 weekly, $1,200 monthly for care for them. So that's an issue as well. So What I would like to do today is, we built out a startup budget year one of around $80,000, is we are coming before the counties because we see this as a resident county issue. I'm coming before you as somebody who is on one of the leadership members of the coalition to request $25,000 from the Adams County Commissioners to get this organization up and running. We are asking for a 3-year commitment, so that would be 23, 24, 25, $25,000 each year over that 3 years. The idea is once we hire a director in July, it would be their responsibility after that 3 years to figure out where those funds are going to come from. So the initial commitment would be from the commissioners for 3 years, but then they would have to, as the director of this organization and the leader of this organization, write grants, do all of those things, potentially come back before the commissioners at a later date and request more funds if that's what they would like to do. We're just seeking that initial 3-year to get us up and running and allow us the time to build this organization out and create an impact for our 2 counties when it comes to early learning. That is my request of you today. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Colton, this entity that you're looking to fund, they won't actually provide childcare. They will be a coordinating effort, facilitating effort for individuals and not-for-profits and churches and whatever that want to provide childcare but need help, whether it's funding help or getting approvals or whatever. They would kind of be a central clearing point for people trying to provide this service.
Exactly.
And probably for people needing this service also.
Absolutely. So they would essentially function somewhat like the EDC, where I'm a resource for all of our businesses and the various different things going on. So they would be opening a facility themselves, providing that childcare. They would be the point person. So they would have to be active. You know, from my perspective on the leadership team who would be part of the hiring, I would put up on them. They need to go out to all of the providers in Adams County and say, what are your needs? How can we help? Where do you want to expand? And what does that look like? And what type of grants are available? And then those entities can go back to this person and say, here's what we want to do. Here's, you know, we need to expand by 20 people, but we need to blow out a wall in our home and build, you know, an expansion. Are there any grants to do that? So they would be kind of the conduit to the resources, right? They would be the first point of contact for local providers to say, we've got an issue, we've got a need, can you help us solve that?
And as I understand it, from the economic development standpoint, your economic development board sees this as one of the primary impediments to providing workforce and so on to encourage and support economic development. So you see this as one of your priorities from the economic development perspective.
Absolutely. And we've built a small amount of money from our own 2023 budget to put into this startup as well, because we see it as an issue. Last week, the mayor had a couple of gentlemen, a professor from Ball State and another gentleman from Ball State who leads their Community Growth Institute come in, and a lot of their talk around economic development was about quality of life and people moving to communities where, you know, they're moving there because of the quality of life and they find a job. They're not moving there for the job. And this is one of those things that families are looking to when they move and they're making that decision is there reliable childcare? Is there affordable childcare? Because they're going to be willing to move to wherever that is and maybe drive a little further to get to work, whatever they're doing, because this is such a big issue. Locally, regionally, statewide, this is a big issue.
I attended that presentation and I was surprised and shocked, probably isn't quite the word, but didn't understand that their research is showing that the primary driver of economic development is not necessarily infrastructure for like a county like ours or whatever, but it is more importantly the quality of the living environment, or what they refer to as quality of place, for individuals who would be supervisors or employees or whatever of this entity that may be looking to relocate or provide jobs in Adams County. Not dissimilar to the work that you've done thinking about housing in Adams County. Again, back to, we used to think, when I always thought of economic development, it was like, have we got an industrial park and are we shovel ready and all those things that they used to talk about in economic development 10 years ago. Seems like that the conversation has shifted now to what is the quality of the environment in which employees of this company will live. And I think that's incumbent upon us then as in Adams County to continue to provide an ever-improving environment for those employees to live in.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the way I was used to thinking about economic development.
Yeah, I think that's the, I'll say that's one of the tricky things about economic development. It changes and morphs, and it can do so very rapidly. When I came in 3.5 years ago, just before COVID, this really wasn't, I mean, it was on the radar, but it wasn't a priority. It wasn't something that we were super focused on. But the drop of a hat, the world changes, and all of a sudden this is an important issue. And so we have to be adaptable to kind of how the economy in the world goes. And this is certainly right now one of those top priority issues along the lines of housing and some of those other quality of life things, quality of place things that people are looking for when they're relocating or finding a job. And it's not just, I think we're doing this so we can bring more people here, more like people who are here, who are working, our current residents have issues with finding childcare. There are waiting lists at most of these licensed centers because parents want to send their kids there. And there's just a lack of opportunity across the county. So there's these waiting lists at all of these facilities to try to get people in. So part of what we're doing here is having somebody on a daily basis who can help build that capacity, who can help take us from, 6 high quality programs to 10 or even 7, right? Let's just take one at a time. But it's somebody who can focus on it on a daily basis and really help those existing providers and future providers move things forward and have more to offer here to local.
I guess I can speak from personal experience. This would have been years ago, to be quite honest with you. But back in the day when I personally struggling finding childcare opportunities in Adams County, it was burdensome enough on my family that we began to look at opening a licensed childcare facility, and what the hoops were back then you had to jump through. And to be quite honest with you, it was a daunting enough task that we just said, we're not up to this right now. We're going to let somebody else figure it out. But to have a resource like I think what you're talking about might have helped me be able to look at this, say, oh yeah, there's funding available. Yes, I can see what the licensing looks like. Oh, we've got to hire a director, and what does the director credentials look like, and all those kind of things that were just, like I said, when you begin to look at opening a licensed childcare facility, it's a challenge.
Right. And that's what this person would walk alongside of you and said, here's your next step. Here's the next step. Let's make this daunting task seem not so daunting. And I will say, our businesses are really starting to engage in this because they understand it's an issue. And I can't give, details, but there's a business in Bern, large manufacturer, who is investing very large amount of money in an existing provider to expand so that they have the capacity for their employees to send their children so that they're not missing work. And so businesses are engaged in this, and, it's becoming, it's an issue that's even broader than the workforce of today and parents and helping parents. It's the workforce of today and tomorrow, because these kids who are 0 to 5 now, 20 years from now, are going to be the ones working in our community and living in our community. And the higher quality of care that we can provide them now, the better off we're going to be in that moment. So this isn't an issue that we're just trying to, let's put a Band-Aid on it right now, let's fix it. This is a long game, and this will have generational impact in Adams County.
Are you trying to increase the license capacity or decrease the cost to families?
Both.
Because if we took that $80,000 and put it towards the 1,277 people, and just basically subsidize their childcare, it'd be less than $80 instead of the $140 a week. But, so I don't know if this is effectively subsidizing.
You certainly could. I would see that as.
And then we wouldn't have another person hired. But
That's very true, but I would see that as a short-term impact. You're impacting that family for, I don't know your calculations, a year.
well, you said you want to put $80,000 towards the program
Yes.
a year. So I took the 1,277 times 140.57, and it was about $179,000. So if you take that $80,000 off of that, then that 1,277 is costing 100,000. Divide that by the 1,277, and we're under $80 per child per week.
So
So-
you'd be helping those 1,200 individuals
Right.
for a year.
That's the reason I asked, do we want to increase capacity or decrease the cost?
This-
Because
this
if you want to
individual would be
decrease the
doing-
cost, you can just subsidize the family.
Sure, but this individual would be doing all of that because you would help those 1,200 families for a year, but there are the other families who don't currently have care, that want that care, that are on a waiting list. So that 1,200, that's just who we can serve. That's not who's out there.
Sure,
So
yeah.
you've got double, triple the amount of people
Yeah.
who are out there that could benefit from that subsidy as well. But that's less money to each. And so you'd be putting assistance to those individuals for a year, but having somebody here, they're going to be able to raise more than $80,000 on an annual basis. They're going to be able to put more into maybe subsidies or creating capacity. So they're going to do more with that 80 than just giving it to those families for a year.
Yeah, and I'm certainly, we use childcare, or kids are using childcare. It's important and it's expensive and it's in short supply. I just, I think, well, if we need to subsidize, are we being efficient with that $80,000, or are we creating another layer of government to try and accomplish what we want to accomplish? So it's a tough nut to crack for sure, because childcare is expensive. It's hard to find good quality childcare, and it's a tough one. So, but yeah, if that's the most efficient way to do it, then by adding another person and another employee and another layer of government to solve the problem, I guess that's my only question. We've got a lot of churches that have daycare systems and daycare programs, and so, and a lot of in-home daycare too. Yeah, it's a big issue for sure.
Who's running these high-quality programs in the county?
Who's running them?
Yes.
So you have the three that are past the quality in Adams County. You would have King's Kingdom here in Decatur. It's Tiny Treasures. I don't know the name of I know it's Tiny Treasures in Bern. And then
But,
there's
okay, but what's the background of these companies or people our children are very fragile at that age, and that's our future. And you might say 6 high-quality programs, but is that really the program we want to be teaching our children of the future?
Fair question. I don't know how to answer that other than those are high quality programs and licensed programs as based off the state requirements and what they're outlining as the education. If that's not,
So it's state-funded
I wouldn't say it's state funded, state mandated.
Okay, state mandated,
If
academics.
if I remember correctly, there are things such as, and again, this has been 10, 20 years ago. You have to have you have to have a licensed certified director that manages. That would be one of the check marks. You would have to have
And if you weren't
an adult to student ratio of
Right.
certain amount. That would be another one of the check marks. You go down and you get all the check marks that the state says constitutes a high qualified, and then you become a high quality, whatever. I don't know that it speaks to curriculum, for instance, if you're thinking about, is it a Christian oriented or whatever. I don't know that it speaks to
It
curriculum.
really depends because you can be, King's Kingdom is a level 3 pass the quality program, but they're also a ministry-based program. So they're going to be able to add more ministry or religious-based curriculum as compared to a facility who isn't ministry-related. So it just depends, but you have the certain requirements. Steve, as you mentioned, from the state perspective, if you're licensed, your director has to have a certain level of college education, a college degree, bachelor's degree in early childhood development or whatever it is to be the leader of that facility. So there are requirements there. I don't know them all off the top of my head. That would be a great question for whoever we hire. They would know that information and all that, where I don't have that off the top of mind, what all those are.
Yeah, it sure is a tough one. I guess I'm not immediately comfortable with adding one more layer of government to solve the problem, but sometimes.
That's
what
my
it takes,
problem. I'm
but,
not wanting to add a layer of government to our children, our fragile minds. I mean, I'm just not.
Layer of government, because this isn't a government agency. Like Imaginarily wouldn't be a government agency. They're a nonprofit.
But it's costing government money. We're asking for 25,000 a year,
Correct.
so.
So you would ask for a government assistance to help get started. It would be government run, overseeing on your tax roll or on your, budget, all of that.
Yeah.
My preference, and I agree with you guys, my preference is always let private industry, private enterprise handle the problem. But I think when we look at the results are that private industry isn't meeting the need. And so is there something we can do to facilitate private industry meeting the need? And I think that's what I just look at this as an advisor to private and not-for-profits being able to meet the need that we have. If the need is being half met, and maybe it's half, maybe it's more, maybe it's less.
So is it up to us to solve that, or is it up to private industry as they look to employees to kind of help with daycare? Like, I've got a daughter-in-law that works at Lutheran, and they have a fantastic daycare up there.
And
But
I
it's
agree
for
with
their
that.
employees, and so
Yeah.
that's why they do it, and it's a wonderful service, and it's a wonderful, but that's what Lutheran decided, that, hey, we've got a lot of people that need daycare, we're gonna help our employees.
And,
So-
I look at Lutheran and look at maybe as a memorial, as a corollary here in Adams County. I don't know that Adams Memorial has the girth size that Lutheran has in order to be able to provide that. Sure would be nice if I have a daughter that works at Adams Memorial, sure would be nice if they had a daycare there for her to drop the kids off at. I guess I'm looking at maybe a coordinator as being able to work with an Adams Memorial and say, hey, if you want to do this, here's how we can get it done. Maybe we can find some grant money. Here are the requirements. I know it's kind of a daunting task, but let's work through it. And they would partner with an Adams Memorial or partner with a FCC or partner with a whoever that has that need that's negatively impacting their workforce every day.
Yeah, and I
Let's figure out how to solve the problem.
That's where the director would be making those connections, right, with the private enterprises and the businesses and saying, hey, like you have a need, let's help this entity out, let's let them expand. So they're going to be that connection maker and again, build their budget out after that 3 years. I think the hope would be they wouldn't need any assistance from the counties because they build up a budget via grants or businesses or whatnot. This is just a
You're
kind
looking
of
at seed money.
get the ball started, get the seed money into it.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to think about it a little bit. And, as we look at options, maybe approach, private industry even to look for solutions, to help them. Even looking at thinking outside the box as far as more flexible hours, work hours, more flexible, personal time, or, even actually contributing to daycare. But
Colton, I assume this approach is favored by your board.
Yes.
I guess I put a lot of trust in that, in the economic development board that we have, that they think about that day to day, and, that it consists of individuals who are in decision maker roles and in industry, and if they see this as a need and something that they see a good investment in their resources.
And I will add to your point, Stan. I mean, in the limited amount of time that I'm able to focus on this, along with the other things, we have seen businesses come to the table and say, yeah, we understand this is a need. Let's do it. Like I mentioned, the business in Bern, we have a business here in Decatur who's looking to partner with Kings County to provide their employees a benefit.
I see those as good partnerships.
Yeah, that is all good.
Yeah.
What I would say is this coordinator would be able to do that on a full-time basis and take that even further than what I'm able to, because I've got to, okay, well, how are they tied in with housing as well, employers, and how are they tied in with this piece and this piece? If there's somebody who can focus on this on a regular basis, they're going to be able to take those connections that we've been able to make so far and take it even further.
Yeah.
And part of that would be building up their budget for this entity in those connections over time, so that, again, it wouldn't be a need for Adams County commissioners and Wells County commissioners and the Community Foundation and so on and so forth to be tied into this. They would have those private businesses tied into it, funding them. They would have grants they're able to get to fund. There are examples of this. Kosciuszko County has this individual. Noble County has this individual. So it's starting to kind of ripple out, and you're seeing it more, and you're seeing the impact those communities are having by having a full-time person in those roles moving this initiative forward. So.
Well,
I don't feel comfortable of saying yay or nay. I'm right here on the line right now. I feel like maybe we ought to table this, and if you could come back next week or the following week, and we can.
We can do the following week. Next week I'm traveling. So
That's where I'm at, Steve. So I mean,
Sure. I have the advantage of being able to, I sat with Fulton's board, so I have the advantage of being able to see this beforehand, guys.
I'm not saying I'm
I get
against it. I'm just not,
totally.
just not comfortable.
So totally get that. Totally get that. Happy to come back in a couple of weeks. What is that? The 16th, 17th, something like that.
I won't be here the 23rd, so.
I can come back whatever 2 weeks from.
It was like
from
the
now.
16th.
Okay. Does that would work?
Yeah. In the meantime, between now and then, if you've got questions, email me, call me. Happy to talk through it further. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay.
Thanks, Fulton.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mark? We'll see how big your stack of papers is today.
It's one.
Just-
Right. Take it.
You got to sign.
Sounds like a gimme.
Maybe you better explain it once. It's yours.
Now you get to sign it in a
I gotta
different
explain
place.
yours to you?
We both signed it twice.
You gotta sign it down here now.
Oh, better make a motion.
I'll make motion.
Second.
Okay.
This is the west side of the road, by the way, out there in the audience, wasn't paying attention. West side of 400, or west side of 200. Also, Golden Meadows.
Oh, those golden meadows. Oh, those golden meadows.
Each side to be determined later.
Yes, sir.
That's all I had.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Mark, we got that rezone. We'll just approve that. That's for, it was for, yeah, because that recommendation was from the April the 20th.
That was
the one for, Napke.
Nap investments. Something.
Napke Investments?
That's not the trailer court, is it?
No. You want us to, I've got it's 5 acres. That's up there on, there.
Oh. I didn't remember what his name was.
Well, I think they were,
That's the Hoover Garage.
changing title. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's happened yet.
I don't know this. I think it did because he bought that from Jack Meyer.
I'm just, yeah, I've got the deed here. It looks like it was, yeah, Jackie Meyer. Jackie Meyer to Knapp Investments. So it looks like, I don't know if the deed's been recorded, but that was the,
I think it has.
probably.
Okay. We get the GIS.
Yeah. So you're good for us to approve this since we've got the recommendation? Okay. So this is a rezoning, recommendation from the Plan Commission to the Board of Commissioners. This is ordinance 2023-12, which is an ordinance to the Board of Commissioners, which rezones the property, which is located at 5095 Southwest State Road 116. It's a Bluffton address, but it's in Adams County, Indiana. And a petitioner filed a request to rezone this acreage as from A, agricultural to I-1 light industrial. And legal description is attached. And the Plan Commission held a hearing on April the 20th, recommending a due pass recommendation for the rezoning, copy of the map, and their recommendation is attached to this ordinance also. Therefore, be it resolved, Adams County Board of Commissioners approve the rezoning from A, agricultural to I-1 light industrial for the legal description submitted. Just need a motion to adopt this ordinance 2023-12, and the exhibits are attached. Any questions on that? There's actually, does he own the building up north here too?
What's the,
Show it to him and I can kind of explain a little bit. So what's going on? There was a James Hoover that owns this. This is the garage that he put in on 116, just, I don't know, a mile north of Meshberger Stone Quarry.
Okay.
Whatever it's called now. Jack Myers owns all this property. He owns the trees that were planted across the road. And actually, I was just about to get a hold of James because this became something more than it was just working out of his garage. It became a really nice business, and to even get him squared away. Well, he has actually moved back up north, different county where his dad is at, and took over his dad's garage. So what happened is he had a partner down here. The partner doesn't want the house. There's a house right beside this. So James is going to sell this whole property to just somebody that's going to live there. This is not going to be a business anymore. It's just going to be somebody's pole barn or barn. And the partner bought all of this from Jack, and he is going to put up a new garage, but now we're getting it squared away, right? Because we know what it's going to be. And he's basically moving the business from here to there.
so we're just rezoning
This triangle right
triangle
here.
here.
Yep.
Will that
Or
there have
whatever
to
you
come
wanna call
out of resident to, was this your zoned business?
No, it wasn't zoned anything.
Oh,
It
so
was
that
ag.
was just, okay.
I was just about to get him squared away.
Oh,
because
okay.
That was kind of like back when,
So he just wants to put another garage?
the person that was working with James didn't want the house and all of this. So James sold the house and all this to another person that's not going to run a business over here. It's just going to be a home with a big building. And so the guy that was working here with James is now buying this property, and he's going to move and put a garage only, no house,
on this property. So this business is just moving south, one lot,
Okay.
and this disappears. I mean, the building stays, but there'll be no business ran out of it.
So it have nothing to do with,
No,
okay,
no, this is a mechanic, auto mechanics.
gotcha, okay. So what's your thoughts?
And so to do this, the proper zone was industrial.
I-1 light industrial.
So that's what they got, that's what he was asking for.
We're giving good agriculture ground, but no.
Only a couple acres, not 3,000.
So,
You knew where I was coming from.
I sure did. I just got that email yesterday. Same one you guys got.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
For rezone that.
all right, motion carries.
Yeah, we would have actually done that to him if he'd stayed there. James would have kept it.
Sure.
I always tell people when that happens, we have another one that's gonna be coming around. But like, Nussbaum Mechanical.
Is that Mark's?
Yeah, Nussbaum Mechanical is a good example. They're on 400 South. They worked at All-Floor Implement. One of the boys left, went to his dad's place, started mechanic out of the barn. That's okay. It's a home-based business. Well, it grew. So when they wanted to build another building and now they have a dealership and, 4 or 5 employees, then they had to come in and they did the same thing. I don't know if they got a zone or a special use, but
Okay,
people don't start off in a bad way and do it wrong. It's just things grow and they don't know how it's gonna grow, and then it goes big enough, you gotta get it right. So that's where this is at.
Thank you.
Thank you.
that's the reward for doing a good job, is more business.
That's right.
All right. Mark, did you want to go next or Shannon? I don't know what all.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll have you sign. I've got to reprint this last page here.
Okay. Shannon, do you want to come up?
I know, letting you off easy.
Okay.
Well, let me see. Yeah, I always make sure I send it.
That didn't go very far, did it, Mark?
No, I'll sign 2 of these once he gets those fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Did you guys have anything from other committees or anything that you wanted to bring up?
We had talked about this last week. That's that business card that I told you I was looking at. That
Okay.
Charlie Brune drafted up for me.
And I already had somebody come in, Mike.
Mike, that's actually, Mike brought that in. Mike was gonna have some business cards made, and
Right.
Charlie said, hey, Bailey's working on something. Why don't you take a look at
He
it
brought it
first?
to me and I said, give it to Steve. So that was a business cards that Shannon and Steve had been working on.
Okay.
And Charlie, the bottom line for that would be if the employee didn't want to have their cell phone number on there, it would just disappear. And so it's
Oh,
kind
right.
of plug and play as far as exactly the information that goes on there. But I'm more looking at the format, and all we did was take the format that we use on our letterhead and say, okay, that becomes the background for the business card. And so it's not, I'm not the creative type. I'm an accountant, remember? They don't allow me to create anything. So I have to rely on other people. So I guess what Shannon had asked me was if we wanted to make this a standard for the county, and as people run out of business cards and want to have them reprinted, that we would ask them to use this standard. Not that we would go through and reprint everybody's business card, but as you said you've got quite a few left, and we wouldn't ask you to reprint those. It'd just be a matter of guys like me that don't have any. This would be the standards that we would use.
So do we need a motion if we decide to do this, to take a standard business card?
You might as well.
And I guess I just had the question.
Well-
The commissioners had stipulated that all departments try to go with For You Office if they could.
This
And this
is,
is complete printing. This is not For You Office. Do
Yeah.
they have that capability?
I have no idea. I guess I look
I
at
only
this.
say that because other departments that had gone with other people that were told by the commissioners to go with 4U office might ask that same question. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out.
Hey, Shannon, is this design considered proprietary? Is it ours or is it Charlie's?
Oh, I think it would be ours. I
To
would-
where we could take this same design and shop it around if we wanted to.
We could shop it if we wanted to, yeah. It's a relatively simple
But
makeup.
sometimes, well, as far as simplicity, but as far as if Charlie created this, he might say, no, that's my
I
design.
think that one of you guys may be better to answer that than me.
I don't know who created it.
We are providing the graphic that is the background for it.
Yeah.
So Charlie didn't create that background that says Adams County, learn, live, grow with a courthouse on it. Charlie did not create that I'm aware of.
But he
That's-
created the
We've
card
provided
design.
that.
Sign of the card though itself, yes, he
Yeah.
did, and I don't know if that would be ours or his. We can ask.
Yeah, I'm just throwing that out there just because it'll probably be asked
Yeah,
by somebody.
Well, let's find out.
Do we need to,
but if we adopt this and if we say that we're gonna pay for employees' business cards that use this design, then it turns from a impetus to a policy.
And I do think that we should put a little bit of structure around it too, not necessarily make it a free-for-all, so anybody in there, and anybody can walk in and say, well, I want business cards now, the county's gonna pay for them, it needs to be elected officials, department heads, Navy chiefs, and that's pretty much it as a general statement.
Do we have an understanding now as to who the county pays for business cards and,
Very informal.
okay. So maybe that's what we need to do is
Well, then
formalize that.
It may be such a thing too that it falls within the department's budget.
Right.
If they have an employee that they want
Right.
print business cards for, then they find the money within their own budget.
I assume that's kind of the way it's been, is that it falls within their own budget.
Yes.
And I know some people have just paid for their own. I think Tony said he paid for his own, and to be quite honest with you, it was my intention to pay for my own. But I just thought if we were going to do it, might as well have a standard that we begin to work toward as people present themselves out in public, whether it's with a business card or with a logo on their shirt or with a whatever, that we begin to build some consistency with how we are perceived in public.
All right.
So I can put something together in terms of a loose
Good.
policy if you want me to, and just.
I think that makes sense.
drainage board was, we going to change that, vote on that, decide what we're going to do, or?
Size of the drainage board? Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah. How should we handle that, Mark, as far as a drainage board? Should we decide today as far as the size and scope of that?
You could, and then you'll know what the makeup's going to be, and then make a decision regarding appointments at another time.
So if we go to a 5-member board, do we want to keep,
2 commissioners and then one from each, one from the north, one from the central, one from the south. And we'll put them on, so like we would
Yeah.
put the first 2 on 2 years and this one on 3 years, and then it would always rotate.
yeah,
What do you think, Steve?
I agree. That makes sense to me.
I think that's
You would
kind
put
of,
North Central on 2 years, south on 3 years, and then it would rotate out.
yeah, that's nice of you two to volunteer. I'm glad you did that.
And I'm okay with that. Stan, as chairman, you get enough of our additional duty stuff. I'm fine with,
We could do that.
I'm fine
So
with giving you a
do we
pass
need
on
to,
this one.
Make a,
So the motion would be that we move the drainage board to a 5-member board. That board would consist of 2 commissioners and
a
a
person from the north,
a
central, and south.
freeholder from the north, central, and south, yeah.
Right. And we would set like the north and central on the first term 2, the south 3, or vice versa. I don't care. I'm just using that. That way you would always,
And then, yeah,
what do you
Good.
think?
and then after that, they would all be on a 3-year.
Yeah.
And it'd be 3-year terms after that.
Yeah, they'd be 3-year terms after that. So after 2 years, the north and south would go to a 3-year, but it would just be different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there going to be, per diems then for the appointed members?
I would assume so.
If we have to go to council for that.
Mhm.
And I think we need to talk about frequency of the meeting too.
I think-
I don't know that we need to do
I
this
think-
in this group. I think ultimately, if we're gonna have freeholders involved, I think we need to make the meetings as efficient as possible, as infrequent as possible, but yeah, get the work done.
Maybe once a month at 8 o'clock.
That would be my recommendation. But I think we can do that at a later date. I don't think we have to make that a part of this motion.
I think if just the motion today is how you want to restructure it, then I think you ought to have, commissioners should have at least a written resolution that details that and how the appointments are made, whether or not there's per diem, subject to approval of county council. I'll work with Clayton and I can work on that, but we can get you need to have a resolution.
I'll make a motion that we change the construction of the drainage board to include 2 commissioners, 3 freeholders, preferably 1 from each north, central, and south part of the county, and work out the details later.
And maybe make it, with the subsequent adoption of appropriate resolution ordinance to make that change. Maybe an effective date of July 1 or something like that.
Yeah, like Mark said, that's my motion.
But I think we need to have an effective date.
Effective July 1?
Yep.
I'll
Good.
second that.
I think that sounds good. Motion carries. Yeah, I think too, that'll be a good idea. They have
like
5
that.
members and I think they brought us some very qualified names.
Me too. Yeah, like it.
Yeah.
Pretty impressed.
And Paul said he didn't want to be on here, so you can scratch in for
Oh, Paul does not?
No, he does not.
Well, he certainly would have brought a lot of expertise and knowledge.
Right.
Understand
He said
it.
he did
Think
not.
these-
Also, I've got a proposal letter from Elevatus. Mark, do you want to look at that?
Yep.
And then I don't know if you want a chance to read it and then we can act on it later, or if you want to act
Yeah.
on it.
No, I'll take a look at it.
Because our next meeting is a week from Thursday.
Okay.
So if it's something we could act on next Tuesday, then I could give them an answer, and
Yeah, we'll
move
take a look
forward
at it.
from there.
And we're looking at options, for real estate.
Good. Also, we have met one time as an opioid steering committee, which was basically the JRAC committee plus Ann Razzo. She was the only person outside that. And so I think Ian was talking about getting that committee together again, to talk about what to do there.
Sure. Good. Good deal. Some money on the table there. We just got to figure out how to use it. Yeah.
Do we have an amount in that, Tony? Do you know?
I think we do. I can't tell you what it is right now,
Okay.
but we do. We're just waiting on guidance.
So if we schedule a meeting with the opioid steering committee.
I think there's a meeting at 1 o'clock coming up that Ian had invited Bree and myself to at West End.
Good.
12 to 1 or something like that. I can't remember the date. I just asked her. I can't remember the date of that. But they were going to discuss
Good.
that at that time.
Yeah. All right.
Because we need to find out what can be spent out of what and all that stuff.
Good. All right. Also, we had proposed a resolution at one time to make the change management committee official. I don't know if that's something we want to kind of look forward to, or as far as a resolution to put some teeth into
Oh, with the
that.
council?
Well, I mean
with the commissioners and,
yeah,
yep, okay.
to designate it as a
Official committee
an
or,
official committee, yeah.
I know we made changes to that and
Yeah.
you guys have been talking about it.
Let's- We've got some quotes on panic buttons, because some of this stuff is Rick's stuff. Would be good to talk to him about. Okay. I don't know that I have anything else.
I don't.
Anything from the general public? Any? Yeah. All right,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
all right, motion carries.